I was packing up what was left of my parents' and little sister's things, 3 years gone without a word. My fiancé Jake's laptop sat open on the table, suddenly lighting up with message after message. CrazyForCandy. Mom, Dad, Candy 1 month till the IPO. Time to come home and cash in. Hubby's little secret. We cleaned out everything 3 years ago and bailed when the company was tanking. Now Lily's paid off every debt and somehow saved the whole thing. If we get some work done and just show up, she won't recognize us, right? DadDavidson. She'll know. That girl lives for family. She's been a mess without us. We could look like different people entirely, and she'd still figure it out. She'll hand over the company the second we ask. MomDavidson. Jake, honey, these 3 years must have been rough. Once we're back, we'll break off your engagement to Lily so you can marry Candy like you two wanted. We'll finally be a real family. My hands went cold instantly. I could barely move the mouse as I clicked on their profiles, the same accounts I'd messaged for 3 years straight. Nothing but silence. I was about to fire something back when my sister's message popped up. Hubby's little secret. Jake, whatever you do, don't let Lily near our documents. I heard she's been asking about declaring us dead. Don't let her file anything. CrazyForCandy. Relax, babe. She still thinks you're all alive somewhere. She talks about you guys constantly. And even if she tries, I've got a guy at the county office. He'll bury any paperwork she files. I pulled back from the keyboard immediately. A cold smile crept across my face right then and there. You want to play dead? Well, I'll make it official starting now. The group chat started the day they disappeared. I scrolled through the messages, feeling colder with every line. While I was losing my mind with worry, the 4 of them were laughing at Iane. She's ugly crying right now. If she knew we were on a beach in the Maldives, oh my god, dash. Good. That's what she gets for taking Jake from you. Never listened to us anyway. Hope she cries herself sick. She challenged me in front of the entire board. Disrespected her dad completely. Let's see her handle millions in debt now. Mom, Dad, Candy, enjoy the trip. Lily's too stubborn to let our name fail. She'll kill herself fixing this. When you get bored traveling, just come back and take everything. Each message hit like a slap. Everything went numb. 3 years ago, their car went off a cliff into the ocean. Over 1,000 people searched for 3 days. Nothing. I stayed in that water for 72 hours straight. My body swelled so badly, I looked ready to burst. I screamed until I had no voice, cried until I couldn't see, refused to leave. Then everything fell apart. Company bankrupt, millions in debt overnight. Creditors spray-painted our building. Pay up. Employees I couldn't pay cornered me in the parking lot. Threw paint on me, beat me down. Broken ribs, broken arm. They ripped out a chunk of my scalp. There's still a bald spot. I begged strangers for money on my knees. Days I chased clients. Nights I delivered food, drove drunks, worked bottle service until I blacked out. 3 years. 4 hours of sleep a night. My hair falling out in clumps. Severe depression. I couldn't go home. Couldn't face their things, their smell, the thought they might never come back. 3 years in hell. Just because my sister wanted my fiancé. Because I didn't step aside when my parents hinted. Because I disagreed with my father once. So they destroyed me. And Jake helped. I stared at his message. Don't worry, I'll start hinting you're alive. She'll come around. Almost laughed at how pathetic I'd been. I screenshot everything, saved it. The lock clicked. I yanked the cord out. Jake rushed in, froze. Looked at the laptop. Then looked at me. Did you use my laptop? I kept my face soft. Sorry, I knocked the cord loose going through my parents' stuff. Did I mess anything up? Relief flooded his face. He pulled me close, voice gentle. Nah, you're fine. Thinking about them again? Lily, listen, maybe they're still dash. Jake. I looked him in the eye. It's been 3 years. I'm done waiting. Tomorrow I'm filing to have them declared dead. Jake froze completely. Lily UV spent 3 years telling everyone they're still out there. What happens when they come back and find out you declared them dead? The irony hit me hard. He'd spent 3 years saying the opposite. Lily, nobody survives that kind of fall. It's been 3 years. If they were alive, they'd be home. File the paperwork and stop torturing yourself. First time he'd ever pushed back this hard. I let my face crumple. Threw his own logic back at him. You're right. 3 years. If they were coming back, they'd be here. I know you don't want me to get hurt, but I can't keep doing this. I can't leave them floating out there like ghosts. Next week I'm holding a memorial. Everyone should get to say goodbye. His whole body went tense. He grabbed my shoulders hard enough to bruise. Lily, no, just wait. Maybe they're already trying to get home. And we're days away from the IPO. If you announce this now, investors will panic. The whole thing could collapse. I actually laughed at that. I'm the CEO. Their legal status doesn't affect anything. If I'd done this 3 years ago, I wouldn't have buried myself paying off their debts. God, I'd been such an idiot. Refused to accept they were gone. Shouldered every dollar of debt because I couldn't stand the thought of them coming home to financial ruin. I'd wanted to protect them, give them back the life they'd had. I'd been so desperate for my family that I'd worked myself into the ground for 3 years. Sharp pain shot through my ribs. I looked straight at him. Jake, you're acting weird. What's wrong? His eyes darted away. Nothing. We've already waited this long. A few more weeks won't hurt. Just hold off until after the IPO closes. He pulled me against his chest, voice dropping into that gentle tone he used when he wanted something. Lily, watching you destroy yourself over this kills me. You and Candy were inseparable. I know you're not ready to let go. As long as they're listed as missing, you have something to hold on to. Don't take that away from yourself yet. 10 years I'd fallen for that voice. That look. Now it turned my stomach. When did he and Candy even start? Before the accident? During? How long had I been the joke? Didn't matter anymore. I pushed away from him, managed a weak smile. I've held on long enough. 3 years is plenty. He stood there, mouth working like he wanted to argue, but couldn't find the words. Once he was asleep, I grabbed his phone off the nightstand. The second account practically jumped out at me. I transferred it to my device and pulled up the most recent conversation. CrazyForCandy. Lily's losing it. She wants to file death certificates tomorrow. Talking about holding a full memorial service for all of you. Hubby's little secret. Oh God, Jake, 2 days ago was your anniversary with her, and you came to see me instead. Did she figure something out? CrazyForCandy. Relax. She doesn't pay attention to that stuff. Last year I spent her birthday with you, and she just felt bad I was working so hard. MomDavidson. Your sister thinks Jake walks on water. She'd believe anything he tells her. That's the only reason she hasn't caught on to you too. DadDavidson. She does whatever Jake suggests. Just convince her to wait. We're not dead. She can't throw us a funeral. CrazyForCandy. Already handled. If she tries to file anything, my guy at the registrar's office will make sure the paperwork gets lost. I kept scrolling. Message after message of them laughing about me. Planning around me. Every birthday I'd spent alone. Every holiday. Every anniversary. He'd been with Candy. There was a recent family photo near the bottom. My parents looked 10 years younger, faces I barely recognized. Candy looked like a completely different person. Prettier. Polished. Like a stranger. I smiled. Even luck was working in my favor. Want to play dead? I'll make sure it sticks. Jake came with me to file the paperwork the next morning. His contact at the registrar's office rushed us through. We had death certificates in hand before lunch. Then Jake started burning through every connection he had to accelerate the IPO timeline. The memorial could wait. He was back in the group chat before we even left the building. CrazyForCandy. Paperwork's done. Fake, obviously. IPO's moved up. Memorial's off the table. I'll grab you guys tomorrow. Ring's already bought. The second we announce the IPO, I'm getting down on one knee for Candy. Hubby's little secret. OMG. I love you. Watching my sister's face when she realizes what happened is going to be the highlight of my year. MomDavidson. She's been a walking punchline this whole time. Thought she could steal Jake from you, please. We're running low on cash anyway, so the timing works perfectly. Your dad takes the company back, and Candy goes right back to being Davidson Elite where she belongs. DadDavidson. That's the plan. Candy inherits everything eventually. Lily's too unstable to lead anything. She can answer to her little sister from now on. I picked up my phone and called the contractor. I need the house stripped down to the studs. Everything goes. You have until tomorrow. The IPO event drew half the business press in the city. Jake showed up looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread, shoulders back, grinning at nothing. He kept glancing toward the entrance like he was expecting his lottery numbers to walk through the door. Then the screens went black mid-loop through the company timeline. 3 memorial portraits replaced them. Gray fabric rolled out over the red carpet. Mourning wreaths appeared flanking the entrance. The energy in the room dropped like someone had cut the power. Jake wheeled on me, anger already bleeding into his tone. Lily, what is this? We postponed the memorial. What are you doing? The board didn't waste time turning on me. Lily, an IPO is a celebration. What possessed you to turn it into a funeral? She's too young for this kind of pressure. Doesn't have her father's steadiness. This is completely irresponsible. We backed you for CEO because we believed in your judgment. Now you're sabotaging the biggest moment in this company's history? Shut this down immediately. I let my eyes move slowly across their faces before landing on the 3 portraits behind me. I know how this looks. But my parents and sister vanished exactly 3 years ago today. My throat tightened, and I felt tears spill over. My father built this company from nothing. The IPO falling on this exact date, I don't think that's random. I think somehow he knew. So I want to say goodbye to them here, in front of everyone who helped him build what we're celebrating. Please let me do this for him. I dropped my head. The room went quiet. Then low voices started filtering through. Wait, today's the anniversary, that's why she's doing this. God, that's loyalty. She spent over $10 million trying to find them. Paid off their debts when she didn't have to. Most people would have walked. She's holding a memorial at her own IPO because she can't forget her family. That's the kind of person you want running a company. The board's hostility melted into something softer, understanding, even respect. Nobody pushed back anymore. I started to speak. Jake grabbed my wrist, voice going sharp and desperate. Lily, stop, you can't do this. Your parents aren't dead. Candy's not dead. They're alive, and they're walking through that door any second now. Every conversation in the room cut off at once. I stared at him like he'd just told me the earth was flat. Jake, you're starting to scare me. If they were alive, they wouldn't have abandoned me for 3 years. They wouldn't have put me through that. You need to let go of whatever false hope you're holding on to. My parents and sister are gone. Actually, we're not. The entrance doors swung wide. An older couple stepped through, a stunning young woman walking between them. Every head in the room turned toward the 3 strangers pushing through the entrance. I recognized them immediately from that family photo. My parents and sister, surgically altered beyond recognition. My father crossed the distance between us and backhanded me hard enough to snap my head sideways. He leaned in close, voice shaking. You ungrateful bitch. Throwing us a funeral while we're standing right here, you want us dead that badly? My mother's face twisted with disgust. Save the mourning daughter routine. You rushed this memorial so you could steal everything. Candy slid between us with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mom, Dad, relax. She got confused, that's all. Now that we're back, the company goes back to Dad where it belongs. Right, Lily? I looked at the 3 of them like they'd wandered in from the street. I'm sorry, have we met? Jake practically threw himself forward. Lily, I should have warned you, your family had major work done. That's why they look different. They're alive, they're here, and you need to cancel this memorial and step down. I turned to Jake, genuinely concerned now. Jake, my parents and sister died 3 years ago. I have death certificates. You're telling me these random people walked in and you just decided they're my family? Jake held up the forged documents. Those certificates are fake. I had them made to help you find closure. Your family's records were never actually changed. I glanced at the papers and nodded once. Those are fake, yeah. But I filed real ones. Legally speaking, my parents and sister don't exist anymore. Pull up the database if you don't believe me. All three instantly lunged for their phones, fingers flying across screens as they searched the state records. Nothing. Jake's face drained of color, and he stared at me like I'd just torched everything he cared about. You knew the whole time. You planned this. Tears spilled over before I could stop them, voice breaking. I knew you were trying to save me from a decision I'd regret. But I couldn't keep drowning. Wherever my parents and sister are now, I think they'd want me to let go. So I did. My parents looked gutted. Candy went chalk white. Jake started pacing like a caged animal, then whirled back and grabbed my arms. Doesn't matter, we can reinstate them. Your house is full of their things. DNA, fingerprints, hair, you told me yourself you sleep holding their clothes because you can still smell them. I blinked up at him, perfectly calm. I burned everything. Had the entire house demolished down to concrete and framing. There's nothing left. Pulled out my phone and showed him the footage. Jake's face flushed dark watching the wrecking crew tear through the rooms. Lily, how could you? You're obsessed with family. How could you destroy every single thing they left behind? My voice cracked and more tears came. I couldn't be around their things anymore. My therapist said cutting every connection was the only way to survive the depression. You don't want my parents and sister watching me suffer like that, do you? Jake stood frozen, words dying in his throat. My mother's composure shattered completely. We're screwed. Every piece of evidence is gone. Legally, we don't exist. What are we supposed to do? My father's tone went ice cold. She's our daughter. She'll vouch for us. I actually laughed. I have no idea who you people are. Why would I verify the identities of strangers pretending to be my dead family? Ask anyone in this room, half of them knew my parents and sister personally. See if they recognize you. The entire room shook their heads. My parents talked over each other, insisting the surgery had changed their appearance. Candy's expression went flat and deadly. She locked eyes with me. DNA test. That'll settle this. Unless you're afraid of what it'll prove. My stomach dropped, but I didn't let it show. Fine. Let's do it. The DNA crew showed up fast, ready to draw blood from all four of us. My father waved them off before they got close. Needles make me pass out. Just test the three of them. I swallowed the laugh, threatening to escape, and kept my mouth shut. Jake threw a million at expedited results. 2-hour turnaround. My parents and Candy looked like they'd already won, moving through the room with easy confidence. My father jumped straight into conversations with the senior board members, dropping specific details about old deals and early company decisions like he'd never left. The older executives wrote him off, at first another opportunist trying to capitalize on tragedy. But he kept going, reciting numbers and names and decisions that only someone who'd been there would know. Suddenly, they weren't so dismissive anymore, and when they looked at me, their expressions shifted into something uncomfortable. He's got too many specifics, right? What if these people really are her family? Forget what he looks like, listen to him talk. Watch how he carries himself. That's the old CEO, no question. They agreed to genetic testing. Nobody does that unless they know it'll come back in their favor. We might be looking at a CEO change before the day's over. My father locked eyes with me, contempt bleeding through every word. Don't play dumb with me. You're pretending we don't exist so you can keep everything for yourself. Not gonna work. I've got a dozen ways to prove who I am and restore my legal status. He closed the distance between us, voice dropping into something cold and threatening. Admit who we are right now and resign, and maybe I'll find you some entry-level position somewhere in the company. Otherwise, once those results come back, you're finished. My mother looked at me like I was something rotting that had crawled across her path. You're a leech. I'm your mother. You are trying to erase us so you can steal our lives? Why did I end up with a daughter like you? Candy glided between us with that expression she wore when she was sharpening the blade. Mom, give her a break. She didn't think we'd ever make it home. Nobody hands over this kind of wealth once they've gotten a taste. We should try to understand. She turned to me with exaggerated concern. You almost died in that earthquake when we were kids, didn't you? trapped under all that debris? I'd think someone who barely survived something that traumatic would be overjoyed to see their family alive and well. But I guess not. My mother's face twisted, and she actually spat toward my feet. She's poison and always has been. Should have left her buried in that earthquake instead of pulling her out. She clenched her jaw so tight I could hear her teeth grinding together like she wanted to bite straight through bone. The raw hatred pouring off her felt sharp enough to cut. She wanted me dead. Same way she had when I was 7 years old. The earthquake came without warning. The ground heaved violently, and the house started ripping apart at the seams. My father grabbed my mother with one arm, scooped Candy up with the other, and bolted toward the door. I stood frozen in the center of the living room, screaming until my throat burned raw.
Dad. Mom.
Don't leave me, please don't leave me. I'm scared, please. My father looked back and hesitation crossed his face. He started to turn around. My mother's fingers locked around his arm and yanked him forward. She stared straight at me with an expression that burned itself into my brain so completely I've never been able to shake it. Leave her. Let the house come down. She's nothing but dash. The roar of collapsing walls drowned out whatever came next. I dove under the table and somehow survived. 25 years later, that moment still plays on loop. Her mouth forming words I couldn't hear through the chaos. I figured out what she'd said eventually. I shoved the old ache aside and met her eyes without flinching, voice flat and icy. Sorry to disappoint, I'm still here. She swung at me without warning. I caught her wrist and shoved her backward hard enough that she stumbled and went down. The second she hit the floor, she started screaming bloody murder. She attacked me. My own daughter just assaulted me. You're not a Davidson, I am cutting you off permanently. My father looked ready to explode. You've lost your mind. That's your mother, and you just laid hands on her. What the hell is wrong with you? Candy's face went into full theater mode, staring at me like I'd committed something unforgivable. Lily, what happened to you? Mom's always been there for you. How could you do that to her? Been there for me? I grew up in Candy's cast-offs, every piece of clothing she outgrew, every toy she didn't want anymore, the backpack she thought was too embarrassing to carry. We were both Davidson daughters, but Candy got private academies while I got shipped off to state boarding schools nobody gave a damn about. Candy graduated straight into a VP slot. I started as an assistant and clawed my way up through every grunt position they could throw at me. Every single time I questioned it, my parents gave me the same rehearsed answer. You're the eldest, you'll lead the Davidson empire someday. We're training you for greatness. It's because we believe in you. Then Candy's incompetence nearly destroyed everything, and they cleaned out every account and disappeared, leaving me buried under the wreckage they'd created. If I wasn't planning to watch them choke on their own mess, I'd ask them straight out, is this what your love looks like? I let my expression go ice cold. Did you three rehearse this performance? Because it's pathetic. I have no idea who you are. My parents and sister are dead. If they were alive, they wouldn't be standing here torturing me. They loved me, they protected me, and we were actually a family. They wouldn't vanish for 3 years and then show up demanding I hand over everything I've built. My throat tightened and tears burned behind my eyes. You keep insisting you're my family, fine. Then explain why you disappeared for 3 years. And why you picked today of all days to reappear right when the company goes public. All three of them froze, exchanging panicked looks, but not saying a word. The room turned hostile fast. How did anyone even survive that crash in the first place? I've been wondering that since they walked in. If they really escaped death, why wouldn't they come straight home? 3 years and plastic surgery first? That doesn't add up. They bailed to dodge the debt, dumped it on the daughter they never cared about, waited for her to fix everything, and now they're back to take over. That's cold-blooded. If that's what happened, she's been played this whole time. Honestly, I hope they're frauds, at least then her real family didn't betray her like this. Judgment crashed down from every direction. Candy's eyes filled with tears as she tried desperately to salvage things.
No.
You don't understand, we had reasons for staying away, Dash. What reasons? I cut her off like a blade. Don't tell me you all got diagnosed with terminal illnesses, disappeared to protect my feelings, miraculously recovered, and came back with new faces to surprise me. What is this, some soap opera fantasy? My parents and sister wouldn't abandon me for 3 years. My sister and I were close. She'd never drain the accounts and leave me holding the bag. My father wouldn't fight me for control. He told me leading the Davidson legacy was my responsibility. They would never do what you're doing, vanish without a trace, and then reappear threatening to disown me. I let my gaze cut across all 3 of them, taking in every flash of embarrassment and shame crossing their faces. My father's face flushed dark, and he stood there speechless. My mother looked murderous, but couldn't come up with a single excuse. Candy reached out carefully, fingers brushing against my hand. Lily, you really don't recognize us anymore? I jerked my hand away, like she'd burned me.
Stop calling me that.
I don't have a sister like you. Candy immediately let herself collapse backward onto the floor in some dramatic faint. Jake rushed forward and caught her, pulling her into his arms. When he looked up at me, fury burned across his face. Lily, enough. Jake shoved me backward, and I slammed into the table edge, my back screaming in protest. He towered over me, neck veins bulging with rage. Candy's your sister, and you just attacked her. Pain whited out my vision for several seconds. I forced myself to breathe until I could stand upright again. I stared at him like he'd become someone I didn't recognize. You're helping them lie to me? What the hell are they to you? What are they to me? They're your family, and I'm your fiancé. Figure it out. I felt tears threatening but refused to give him the satisfaction. You told me they were dead. You spent 3 years convincing me to let go and move forward. Now you're swearing these 3 strangers are the family I've been grieving, and I'm just supposed to believe you? Then tell me why you lied. His eyes wouldn't meet mine, and he started stumbling through some pathetic excuse. Look, it's complicated. Lily, I'll explain everything later. Your family's back. We should be celebrating right now. Celebrating? My voice cut through his bullshit. 3 con artists walk in claiming to be my dead family, and I'm supposed to throw confetti? Am I that dumb to you? Jake, just tell me the goddamn truth. Guilt flashed across his face before he could hide it. I didn't wait for another lie. I pointed straight at Candy. You're sleeping with her. These 2 are her parents, and you cooked this up together to steal my company so you and your girlfriend can live off everything I built. Candy started to speak, but Jake talked over her.
Yes.
Candy and I are together. But she's not my girlfriend, she's your sister, Candy Davidson. He moved closer, voice turning vicious. You want the truth, Lily?
Fine.
Candy and I have been together for 7 years. She's everything or not. She's sweet. She's warm. She actually makes time for me instead of using work as an excuse to blow me off. Being with her made me realize what a massive mistake you were. She's the real Davidson heiress, and you're just some workaholic who got lucky. The words hit like a sledgehammer to the chest. I'd known about the affair. I'd seen the messages. I thought I was ready. But hearing him say it, hearing the contempt dripping from every word still tore me open. My hands went completely numb. My throat burned. 7 years. Candy had been 17 when they started. Of course, she was younger, prettier, more available than I'd ever been. She didn't need to work. She graduated straight into a VP title with equity while I was grinding myself into dust trying to earn my parents' respect, clawing up from assistant to director while destroying my health. Jake used to hold me and say, Lily, you're killing yourself with this job. If you're too swamped, we don't have to see each other as much. I hate watching you suffer. I'd thought he was being supportive. Turns out he just wanted more time alone with my sister. I couldn't breathe properly. My chest felt like it was caving in. It took forever before my lungs started working normally again. When I finally looked at Jake, all the pain had crystallized into something cold and sharp. I hope you never regret this. He glanced down at Candy with something protective and tender before his eyes turned back to me, dead and dismissive. The only person regretting anything here is you. Lily, you've already lost. Those DNA results are about to prove they're your biological family, and when they do, you're finished. If you want to salvage anything from this train wreck, apologize to your parents and Candy right now. Maybe if you grovel enough, I'll convince them to keep you on as some low-level assistant. I smiled, then genuinely smiled. What makes you so sure I've lost? His confidence didn't crack even slightly. Because I know exactly what those results say. They're your biological parents and sister, which means you're handing over the company. I held his gaze without blinking.
Fine.
But when those results prove they're frauds, all 4 of you are facing criminal charges. The doors swung open. The DNA technician walked in carrying the results envelope. Candy practically threw herself forward and tore it open. The second she saw what was inside, all the color drained from her face in an instant. This can't be right. My parents and Jake grabbed the DNA report and scanned it frantically. The second they hit the line reading biological relationship excluded, the room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. My mother found her voice first. There's been a mistake. I'm her mother. Someone switched the samples. My father's face went dark red as he turned on the technicians. You people botched this, or she paid you off. I'll have your licenses revoked for malpractice. The head technician pulled out a notarized certificate without breaking eye contact. We're the highest-rated forensic lab in the state. This document validates every step of our methodology. Continue making false accusations, and we'll file defamation charges. My parents' mouths snapped shut. Jake rushed in trying to salvage things. Hey, nobody's blaming anyone. Maybe something just got mixed up with the samples? The technician's expression turned to stone. The blood was drawn with all of you present and went directly from collection to analysis under strict chain of custody protocols. Zero possibility of contamination. You want to question our credibility? Call law enforcement. Will cooperate with any investigation. Jake stood there struggling to form words before finally managing. Getting police involved seems excessive. What if we just run another test dash? Excessive. I cut him off cold. The results are right there in black and white. How much longer are you going to keep up this scam? If you won't call the cops, I will. I pulled out my phone. Jake's face drained of color, and he lunged for it. Lily, don't. They really are your family. You can't involve the police. I let him take the phone. Half the room had already seen enough to involve authorities without my help anyway. The board members weren't going to let 3 con artists disrupt a major corporate event and just walk away. I looked at Jake with pure disgust. Jake, those results couldn't be clearer. These people share 0 DNA with me. You're still trying to sell them as my family? What's your angle? Here. I'm not lying. I laughed in his face. You've done nothing but lie. 7 years you played devoted fiancé while screwing my supposed sister behind my back. You're pathetic. My voice went deadly quiet. You've been so desperate to pass these frauds off as my family that honestly, I'm starting to think you murdered my real parents and sister. He flinched violently and started waving his hands in denial.
No.
They're alive. They're standing right here. They faked their deaths to test whether you dash. Jake, shut your mouth. My father's voice cracked across the room as he shot Jake a look that could kill. Let me handle this. My father turned to me with an expression he probably thought looked fatherly. Everything we did was designed to test your integrity and leadership. You passed. You proved yourself capable of running Davidson Industries without compromising your values. Now that we're back, you've earned your rest hand over control and let your sister and me take it from here. My mother's face softened. Your father's right. We needed to know you could handle the pressure without cracking or getting corrupted by power. You demonstrated exactly what we hoped you would. Transfer the company, and we'll forget this entire scene ever happened. Candy slipped seamlessly back into her innocent act. Lily, we're blood. Family is everything. Mom and Dad were only trying to make you stronger, and just look at what you've accomplished. Make me stronger? Their nerve was absolutely staggering. Was stealing my fiancé 7 years ago part of the character-building program? Candy's sweet expression flickered, and she looked to Jake for backup. Jake jumped in without missing a beat. What Candy and I have is real. That wasn't part of any test. His voice turned aggressive. I'm proposing to her today and marrying her. Nobody changes my mind. I nodded slowly. Impressive coordination on the store, really committed performances all around. I almost bought it. My voice hardened. But I trust forensic science over anything you people say, so save the rest of your script for my lawyers. Right now I've got a memorial to conduct for my actual family. I picked up the eulogy pages. Jake completely snapped. He grabbed the papers from my hands and tore them apart. Lily, listen. A negative parent-child result doesn't mean they're not your family. Your parents and Candy have medical records, blood work, and genetic markers from annual physicals. We can pull those files and match them to these people and prove everything. I shrugged. Then go ahead and try. Jake started calling every hospital in the city, scrambling to find medical records that could back up their story. Every facility shut him down. No records exist for any of those 3 people. They look like the ground had just opened up beneath them. I kept my expression neutral while dying laughing inside. I'd seen this coming from a mile away. Days before any of this went down, I'd hired someone to scrub every trace of their medical history from the databases, every appointment, every blood draw, every file going back to before my parents were even married. Jake could call in every favor he'd ever earned and still hit nothing but dead ends. They went from shocked to panicked to completely broken as the full weight of what was happening finally sank in. Jake wheeled on me, about to lose it completely. You did this. You knew everything from the start. You planned this entire setup to trap them so they could never come back. I gave him the faintest smile, without confirming anything. Planned what? The evidence speaks for itself. I trust science and the law, that's it. Jake looked like he was watching everything he'd worked for burn down in real time. My mother started muttering like she'd completely snapped. The DNA has to match. David, what if your father switched her at the hospital? What if she's actually his, and he wanted to keep his own child dash?
Crack.
The slap echoed through the entire venue. My father stood there shaking with rage. Shut your mouth. What the hell are you saying? The room exploded. Wait, is she saying Lily's actually the grandfather's daughter? That's insane. Why are we listening to anything these frauds say? My mother threw herself at my father, fists flying. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I've kept quiet about what your father did to me for 30 years. I hate him, and I hate the bastard he gave me. She turned on me, completely unhinged. You're nothing but what came from him forcing himself on me. I've hated you every single day. Looking at you makes me sick. Why won't you just die? I slapped her hard. Half her face swelled instantly. Stop making a scene. I don't know who you are, and nothing you say matters to me. Touch me again, and I'm adding assault charges. She collapsed sobbing while her precious daughter backed away, like she was contaminated. The police walked in and started moving to take all 3 of them in. My father grabbed my arm, every bit of his earlier confidence gone. Lily, please. I raised you. Don't do this. I won't touch the company, I'll disappear. Just don't press charges. Candy latched onto my sleeve, tears streaming. Lily, I messed up. I shouldn't have convinced them to fake their deaths. We don't need our identities, just don't report us. We're broke. We'll be homeless. I pulled away and pointed at Jake standing there like he'd been hit by a truck. Ask him. You've been together 7 years. He swore he'd marry you. He's taken plenty of my money. If he's smart, you won't starve. Candy threw herself at Jake. He seemed to wake up and shoved her off before dropping to his knees in front of me. I'm broke. I just burned my last $100,000 on those results. Lily, I don't love her. I only wanted the Davidson money. I've always loved you. I'm not marrying her. Please don't give up on me. I stepped back, smile ice cold. Jake, I specifically told you not to regret this. Jake froze, staring up at me with absolutely nothing left. His legs gave out, and he collapsed. Once they hauled everyone away, I finally held the memorial I'd been trying to conduct all day. After that shit show, we kept everything minimal. Brief remarks, a moment of silence, done. The IPO ceremony got rushed through in under 10 minutes. The disaster cost the company a few million in momentum, but could have been worse. The verdicts came back a few days later. My parents got nailed for fraud and identity theft. Even though they hadn't actually stolen anything, They torpedoed the company's reputation during a major public event. With zero assets for restitution, the judge went hard 3 years each. Jake got 5 for bribery, falsifying federal documents, and multiple counts of conspiracy to commit fraud. Since my parents no longer legally existed, they had to use Jake's forged IDs to re-register with the state under completely different names. They'd successfully erased themselves, just not the way they'd planned. Jake requested to see me. I figured he'd worked something out. He looked like hell when they brought him in, gray skin, dead eyes, completely wrecked. You knew from the beginning you weren't David's biological daughter. Of course I knew. I'd spent years replaying that moment during the earthquake when my mother screamed something I couldn't hear through the roar of collapsing walls. Eventually I figured out what her mouth had formed. Bastard. So I dug up the whole sordid history myself. Part of me understood what she'd been through. I got the hatred. I'd even tried reaching out over the years, hoping we could somehow bridge that gap. But after being rejected repeatedly, I finally accepted some damage is permanent. I couldn't admit any of that here though, cameras recording everything. I gave him a small smile. Say that loud enough and you'll add defamation to your charges. His jaw tightened. I've been replaying everything trying to figure out how the DNA didn't match when you obviously had to be her biological daughter. Then, yesterday someone in Gen Pop tried killing themselves, and it hit me you're severely anemic. You've had multiple transfusions over the years. I was genuinely impressed he'd put that together. I tapped my temple mockingly. If you'd used that brain for something legitimate instead of running cons, you wouldn't be wearing orange right now. I stood to leave. He strained against the restraints. When did you figure it out? When did you know? I pulled out my phone and opened the group chat, one big happy family holding it up just long enough for him to see the name clearly. I didn't explain, just turned toward the door. His voice cracked behind me, desperate and furious. Lily, you're abandoning your own mother and sister. Karma's coming for you. I looked back through the reinforced glass, still smiling. Karma's already here. You're sitting in it. I walked out without another word. The sun hit me the second I stepped outside, bright and warm and promising. Just like everything waiting for me now.